Welcome everyone to episode number 176 of Pro NoCoders Office Hours. I am your host, Tonya. We're here with members Brittany and Thomas. We're gonna get started in just a moment, but first, I wanna make sure that you know what Office Hours is. At Pro NoCoders, we bubble. That's our main no-code tool. We do a lot of others, but Bubble is our main focus. And essentially, we invite our members to come on our Zoom, and we broadcast that Zoom live 6 times per week. And they can ask us any Bubble question they want, and we will do our best to get them an answer. And our guarantee isn't an answer, but it's that you won't suffer alone. So you can have a question and you can make sure that somebody else is working on it with you to get that answer. If you would like to join us and ask us your Bubble questions, you can go to pronocoders.com and sign up. It's $99 per month for 6 sessions per week, but I'm going to put it out there on January 1st, 2022, the price is going up. So you have limited time. For only $99, you get 6 sessions of office hours per week, and we can help you answer your Bubble questions. So go sign up right away. You can also sign up for our vault, which we haven't been talking about recently, but is going swimmingly. We're going to send out an email to all of our members at pronocoders.com, whether you're on a subscription or not. And we're going to update you on the newest videos in the vault this weekend. What it is we receive questions all the time from a bunch of different places. We answer that in a video, and then Pablo, one of my partners, he goes in there and he watches each video very carefully, no matter who made it, and he gives us keywords and he timestamps them. And then he organizes it so that on the vault page, you can search for exactly what you're looking for. And then when you find the video and you think it might answer your question, you can check the timestamps and see exactly where you need to start the video, so you don't waste time watching a bunch of unnecessary video. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Brittany has some questions for us to start.
Okay.
Hey, Brittany.
Hey. So, oh, I know what it is. Okay, so I'm still working on my. I have so many pages now. Okay, I want to know how I can get this top banner to stay visible here. I want that to, when I scroll, I want it to stay there.
Gotcha. Is it a floating group?
It's a reusable element, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think you just need to put all of those things in a floating group and the reusable. Would that be your answer to you, Thomas? I think that's the answer.
I had some trouble the other day.
You did?
I had some trouble getting the reusable floating group to stick to the top. So what I've done in the app I'm working on now is I'm just working directly on a floating group, just for testing purposes.
So maybe putting the reusable in a floating group that's on the page?
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
See what it looks like.
Let me try that.
It was a bit annoying, honestly, when I was trying to figure it out. So if you go into the reusable element and you just like right click, you can convert that. It's probably just a regular group into a floating group.
Yeah, but we're talking about putting the floating group on the page and then putting the reusable in the floating group that's on the page.
Right.
Okay, now I get what you mean. Okay, gotcha.
So hold on, I think I've messed something up. Okay. I'm just gonna delete that off for right now. Floating group. And just put it anywhere so I can get it on the page. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's up here already. Okay. So how do I get this to move down?
So the floating group is
not
on the page itself.
Oh,
so you
okay. I think I asked a crazy question just now. I get it. Hold on.
Okay. There are no crazy questions. You're tackling the new responsive editors. So
Okay, so here we go. Oh man, what happened? Okay. I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to change the width. Not the width. Okay, I'm just gonna see what it is. Wow. How do I get that off of there? And it looks a little janky, but I don't know what I'm doing. Above elements beneath the page.
okay, so I think go back to the preview again. So let's see if we can see what's happening here. So you have a floating group and it's floating at the top and anchored to the left, right? And then there's a scroll bar in your.
I think it's too big. Like I think I have.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead. Let's first take the reusable out of the floating group. We can add it back later.
Oh.
All right, and now just preview again. Okay, so
wait.
It's an invisible, right? So now we just need to add a background color to it so we can see it. So just remove this dial and then you can add a background. There you go. So now it'll be white.
I'm gonna just do something
that's fine.
so we can see.
No worries. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is go back into that element and then to the layout.
And center.
And yeah, container layout should be probably column.
Aligned to parent or row usually works pretty good.
Oh, okay. So aligned to parent.
But how do I get it to be centered?
Nope, just it did it. So let's just see where we are. We're going step by step because we're okay. So now go back and
top left. Oh, no, that's not right.
You're gonna have to expand the floating group so that it's I think it's fixed width right now.
Yeah. So go to.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Now try it again.
I would match whatever you have on the.
Yeah.
Gotcha. 320.
Oh, Jane's coming.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Actually, make sure that floating group is on the page itself and not inside a group because I made that mistake too.
I don't think you could put a floating group.
It's not in the group.
Okay.
Inside a group.
Gotcha.
Oh no, I'm doing something crazy. Not even that. Okay, let's try it around. Here we go. No. There is something that I it's in the container.
Are all the container, is the max width for all the container elements?
980.
Yeah. Everything's 980. Click back on the floating group. And so it's a row. It shouldn't matter, it should expand. Little straight.
Maybe, but I don't think so. I think that's talking about the content that's inside the
of it, right?
The floating group. So.
Again?
Huh?
Preview again? I just want to see. So it's up there. But
what was your click in the group, that's containing the stuff below it, because you didn't have that centered there. You have that container alignment is different. See up there? Your container
Oh, right
alignment?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Let's
try
try.
that.
Oh. Nope. Wait,
Here,
what is going
go back into container alignment for that group.
for
The-
this one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what's the one on the bottom?
What do you mean?
See, I just want to see what the container looks like for each group,
Oh, right here.
not the bigger ones.
Gotcha.
So that's row, and then the one that says how it works, I think is what I saw.
Yeah, that one's small. It's a column.
Oh, it's column.
Mm-hmm.
And so this main page container is column 2.
Yes.
Main height.
I had an idea that I thought would have. Hold on. Oh no.
Mm-mm.
Oh no. Let's see what this does, just because I'm not sure what's going on. I just play around with it till I figure
Here,
it out.
go to click on floating group again, and then go to appearance, floating group A, and then select parent child. I know this sounds dumb, but I just want to see what. Yeah, it should only be the home page. That makes sense. I'm not really sure what's going on. I have a suspicion that some things in the whole container are out of alignment. Things are just not, because I got this to work on my thing pretty easily. I think maybe that how it works, the fact that that's a little spaced a little differently. I'm not sure, but
This is weird.
why don't you try erasing that floating group and putting a new one in there?
Number one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I just want to see what it does just from right here without doing anything. I'm just going to change the background so you can see it. Oh, no, that's not. Okay, still doing it.
Okay, so is that centered? The no,
Oh.
doesn't matter. Can you go to responsive with the responsive section next to the and just like collapse that? Expand and collapse. Expand it to 1200. Click on, all right, so expand it to 1200. Click on the floating group. And then here, try this. Go to the max width and shift up. Shift up. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And just, I guess, get it all the way to 1200.
It's going to like 13 something like that.
Yeah, I would just put 1200 manually.
Oh, wouldn't you want to do like the
Mm.
max width be like maybe 100%, or you just really want to stop it at 1200?
So you're saying percentage or?
Yeah, like using a percentage instead of stopping it at 1200. Because are you stopping the other pages at 1200? Like the other elements?
They don't even go past 12. The max width that I have on everything is 980.
980 is the max width, but somehow that's not true.
I think if you turned everything to 1200, if you maybe just turn everything to 1200 and then work from there. I mean,
I can
That's
barely
not-
hear you.
Yeah, because you're not, I mean, you have a max width of 980, but it's centered. So you're doing a max width of 1200 here, but it's not centered, it's aligned to the left.
Okay.
So I almost feel like if you set the max width of your header to 100%, you'd be in better shape.
There you go.
But
I've actually not even played with percentages yet.
Me.
yeah,
It's cool.
So,
Good to know.
yep. So now you definitely have a header that is going to go across the screen, no matter how large the screen is.
right.
Very cool.
Okay. So now let me see if I can fit.
We've got the weird audio thing happening again.
Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay.
So now what you want to do is you want to make it the height of your reusable.
Okay, I need to go.
Hey, Jay. Hey, Callan.
Hi there.
Do you have questions today?
Nope.
Nope. How about you, Callan?
What is life?
What is
No.
life?
Yeah. Oh, you mean bubble questions? Only the question I had before. Now I'm just building out a management dashboard at the moment. But
Okay.
just thought I'd pop on and see you guys.
Yeah, glad you're here.
What are we doing today?
We're playing around with the new responsive engine. So now we just have to change the settings in
Yeah.
reusable itself. Yeah.
Need to change the
And then Adeboye is joining us and he has a question. Hi,
Is
Adeboye.
Eli going to be joining today?
Is what?
Is Eli going to be joining today?
No, he will not be joining today.
Do you know the next session that he's going to be joining?
I do not. I can ask him. He's just getting back. He took a month and went to the Dominican Republic to enjoy remote working. Brittany, did you get far enough?
Yep, it works.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So he's just coming back to the States like overnight from last night to today. So I think I'm gonna give him a couple days to reacclimate. But I will talk to him on Monday and I can ask him when he's planning on coming on again.
It was lovely to see you guys. I have just been pinged by my boss, so I will speak to
Okay.
you guys later.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye.
Hi, Adeboye. How are you?
Hi, Tonya.
I watched your video and I have some ideas. Do you want to share your screen?
Awesome.
I'm gonna go back to the page where where the bill is.
1 second. Let me just.
No worries. Take your time.
Okay. I hope. Can you see my screen now?
I can.
You can, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah.
So yeah, if you go into the editor where the bill is, because you were converting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, I'm not sure. I did the same process, right? The same way that you created a purchase order, then with the hope of linking the purchases to the order. So I guess this should be the same process. I have bills,
Sure.
I have
So-
orders.
Yep. So go to the data types up at the top left there,
Okay.
and then go to bills.
Bills.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And then I would probably call it a, so instead of calling it bills, I'd probably call it bill, because that'll
Bill.
be easier to
Yeah, yeah,
understand,
sure.
because you're only looking at one at a time.
Yeah.
And then, so see where you say purchase order number. Okay, so you have a bill number, you have a purchase order number. You're
Yeah.
connecting this data type. The only thing you're connecting it to right now in terms of other data types is the suppliers.
Yeah. I don't know if that's correct, but yeah.
So what I would do is I would create a new field
Okay.
and I would call it purchase order. And
Okay.
then I would make the field type purchase order. There you go, and create that. So now when you create a new bill, in addition to connecting it to the supplier, you're also going to connect it to the purchase order, right? And then that's going to give you access to everything about that purchase order.
Okay.
Right. So you will be able to list all of the things that the bill is going to cover through the purchase order. You could also make another, you could add different fields to this and store things like separately as well. Like at the point that you're ready to actually invoice or something like that. You can be redundant in your database as you would like to be. I typically avoid that if I can, because if you can get to the data quickly and easily without doing a bunch of searches on the page, then less redundancy means less maintenance in the future. So if you change how you do something, you don't have to change many more things. If you're just, so let's just see if this works. So if you go to where you're going to click to create the bill.
Okay. So yeah, that's from creating the bill. 1 second. To create the bill. Sorry, I have to create the whole.
No, I'm sorry, I misspoke. In your editor, go to the button where it creates the bill, because we have to do some workflows first.
For the bill, it comes from the purchase order. Yes. Okay. Repurchase order. I think, yeah. So from convert to bill. So I use this, and this is workflow. So the workflow is create new bill and go to add bill page.
Sure. And if you go into step 1 and open that up, you'll have double click on the orange. Double click there and then click again in step 1. That's just a bubble bug. Okay.
Yep.
So you're creating a new bill, and now what you need to do is you need to set some fields of that, because the information that you need to send into that page is going to be stored in this thing that you're creating. So click the button add all fields. It's the link there. Okay, so we should know the purchase order. So if you click where it says purchase order equals, then you should say current page purchase order.
Okay.
And then do you know from the purchase order who the supplier is already?
Yes, because on the current page purchase order, the name of the supplier will be there.
Okay, so if you click on supplier, there you should say current page purchase order, and then you should be able to find your supplier. Oh, I think I saw it, or maybe I was dreaming things.
No.
Maybe try typing supplier.
Okay, seen it.
There you go. Okay, so now you have those two things, which is a very good start. So then have you decided how you're going to number the purchase orders? I guess you probably have. So we should click where it says purchase order number.
Purchase order number. So on the purchase order, I'm using a random generator for now. That's what I'm doing, just to create a random number. So each time a purchase order page is open, a random number is actually generated for now.
Got it.
I'm
Okay.
going to toggle it that they can either use a random generator or they can use their own, but I can do that later. That's not a showstopper.
Gotcha. Okay, so go ahead and click there and we'll use current page purchase orders number, wherever you're storing that. There you go. Purchase order number. All right, and then the bill number, are you also going to generate random numbers for now?
Yes, I'm going to for the bill number. So, and the bill number, once the page is open, a random number will be generated for the bill. So
that you've got that covered. Okay, so you can remove that one from this list. You can click that trash icon there.
even the bill due date, once you get to the bill page, you select from
Okay, you can delete that one.
paid
You probably already know the paid status going into this because it's not yet paid because you haven't issued
yeah,
it
paid.
yet.
Yeah.
So you could go ahead and set the paid status here.
You want me to set it to no? Okay.
Yep. And then payable status, you can probably also set.
No. But it's payable. Okay. Can always change that. It's not it.
All right.
Okay.
And then did you already generate a PDF or not yet? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, I will generate one, but I haven't generated one yet. So it's not a showstopper.
Okay, that's fine. So you can delete that one from here. And then you probably don't have any remarks yet. So you could probably delete that one as well.
Yeah. I think, okay, remarks. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're in good shape. And then click the step 2. It's so weird. Yeah, double click on the orange workflow and then, yeah. Okay, so yes, so that's perfect. Okay, so now let's go to the add bill page.
In the editor?
Yep, in the editor. Yep, so. All right, and then in the design, so click into, like, some of these things should already be auto-populated. So click into where it says select supplier.
Yeah, so should be default value.
I would say probably refer to current page bills supplier.
Current page bills. Okay.
And then it's, yeah, so you have that. And then, but click in there again, because I think that was a search box, right?
Yes, it's a search
So you
bar.
probably don't want them to actually search because this is already like,
yeah, it shouldn't
pre-done.
be a search. So
That's okay. Yep, you can right click and you can change that to, it'll still be looking for an input. So you could just do like a regular input.
Yeah, I've changed it to an input.
Okay, and then click in there again.
Which one? Supplier, right?
Yep, supplier. Yep. So see, it deleted your initial content. So we'll just go ahead and reset that.
Good.
And then you probably want to check the box where that says this input is disabled so that they can't click into it and change it at all.
Okay.
Actually, not that one, the one below it.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. There you go. Perfect. So let's test this far because this is probably giving you like.
Okay.
Make sure that the data is being transferred right.
That shows.
There
Okay.
you go. Yep, so
Yeah.
that's how you're gonna send the information in. And now the thing that you want is you want the items to show there, right?
Yeah. Yes,
So
please.
that's a repeating group, and the source is going to be the current pages, bills, purchase orders, line items.
Okay. So yes, for the repeating group, the source is supposed to be. Is this right?
So, okay, so I don't know if it's right. It's probably not right since it's not
Okay.
working.
Let me
But-
explain what I
Yeah.
did. That's why I made the mistake. So what I want to do is that once I create the bill, right? I want to be able to store, because the purchase order, once the purchase order has been issued, they've received the goods, right? So that bill or that purchase order becomes due and payable. So what I'm doing is that I want to convert that purchase order into a bill. So what I did is I created a different data type where I'm going to store the list of those items in another data type called payables. So because I want to be able to keep track of all the items that I have received goods in my inventory and I want to make payment for. So that's
Sure.
why maybe that's why I created another data type where I will create all my payables, then all the payables will be linked to a bill.
Yep, that's fine. That's not a problem. So what we do is we go back onto, actually, we're gonna go to your backend workflows.
Okay.
So if you
So
go
which
click,
page?
you click where it says page,
Is it
where it
this?
says page add bill, click like you're going to switch pages.
Okay.
And then it doesn't look like you have, well, scroll down on this. Is that it? Is
What
that
page are you
the,
looking for?
no, like, can you scroll down?
Yeah, I scroll down.
It looks like there's more there. There you go. So you do not currently have backend workflow set up. So go to your
No, I
settings.
don't have backend workflow set up. Yes.
Okay, but that's what we're gonna do now. So you go to settings and go to API and then enable that. Yep, perfect. And now you can go to your backend workflows. So go back up to where you're gonna switch the page.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, if you scroll down, now you should see a new thing at the bottom there where you can go to your backend workflows. Nope, scroll down. You're not at the bottom. There you go.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So what backend workflows are is when you need to do things outside of where the page where the user is. And one of the things that is nice about backend workflows is you can do what's called a recursive workflow, where you can create a whole bunch of things from one command essentially. And
Okay.
so the reason that we're going to do the backend workflows here is because you need to create several things. You need to create a list of things. You can do that from the front end workflow, but it's probably faster to send it to the backend workflow because you're also going to be navigating them to a new page at the same time.
Okay.
So go ahead and click to add a backend workflow and new API workflow. And then go ahead and click into the workflow itself. Click into the workflow. There you go. And add a new parameter. You can put a name there. So create payables, all lowercase and either no space or use an underscore.
I should use an underscore. Okay.
Yeah.
Create tables.
Oh, I think you're calling them payables.
Okay. Okay. Create payables. Okay. What's that?
There you go.
Just make it sing payables.
Yep. Payables. Yep. And then add a new parameter. And the parameter is going to be, you call it purchase order. And then make it type purchase order. Yep. And then that's it. And then click to add an action under the workflow.
Okay.
And then what we want to do is we want to create, so where it's data, we want to create a new thing. And the new thing will be a payable. You'll have to do that weird thing that Bubble's making us do now.
Oh,
That's not working. There you go. So
no,
that's
it's been-
click and just don't, but it might help if you stop closing out of it.
Let me just create a new thing. Maybe that will start again. It's not popping up. Okay.
There you go. So then you want to create a new payable,
Okay.
and then add all fields. And then I see something that we've done, we need to do. So
We need to go to the data.
No, it's fine. So there's the bill is referencing the inventory, price, quantity, and raw materials. So we never updated the purchase order to have a bill. Like, we didn't connect the purchase order directly to the bill. So we can do one of two things. We can do that, or we can go into your API workflow here and we can add the bill as a parameter to this as well. I think that's probably the easiest thing to do at the moment, is just go where it says API workflow, create payables, click into the workflow.
I should go to API. Okay.
And go ahead and add a new parameter. And then put bill of type bill. There you go. And so now when you create a new payable, and you don't have to close out of that. In fact, I would never close out of that. I'd just leave it open.
Okay.
And then you go to step 1. And now click where it says bill. And you're just going to save the bill there. Okay.
Okay.
And then what does inventory mean?
Inventory. Why did I put that there? Inventory is supposed to be the item, actually. The inventory is supposed to be the item.
Okay,
I think
that's fine.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's it.
so what you'll click there is, go ahead and click that.
No. I think I know what it is now. Apologies. Okay, I get it now. So the way I did my workflows and what I did, so each time, we have the orders. So my orders are just orders, right? It's only when I get the goods, once I receive them, before I can now actually say I own them. So what I did is that each time I do a receive workflow, immediately the orders actually get stored up in the inventory data type.
Okay, but go to data. Actually, do you mind if I think I have access to your app, right?
No, you don't have, I don't think you have access to this, but how can I share this to you? Maybe you can check it out.
Yep, you can share it with team@pronocoders.com. So you go into settings.
Settings, okay.
Yep. And collaboration up at the top. Yep. And then you just add team@pronocoders.com.
I guess this is it.
Yep.
Invite, right?
Yep. And then I should see it populate on my side. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And then,
Stop sharing now.
yeah. So if I go into your data, we've got order, And you
Yeah.
said something is happening.
So
Like
yeah,
when you click that receive button, some inventory stuff is happening.
yeah. So once I get all the orders, I actually store them. Once I receive the orders, I store them in the inventory database. It's pretty much like the warehouse of all the goods I get.
Okay.
So now the thing is, once I now store it in the inventory, right? You know, there's a purchase order. The purchaser I can either receive the goods partially, or I can receive the goods in full. So you can see once I receive the goods in full, that's receive all quantity. Immediately I store all the numbers. Then if it's received partially, that's when I make changes to the purchase order, right? And I now store the difference in the inventory. Now, once I now get all the goods in my warehouse, now the next thing is for me to make a payment to the supplier. So I was working with that, you know, I will now transfer, since the purchase order, there's a purchase order page. So I wanted to actually transfer the data displayed in the repeating group on the purchase order. I will now transfer that data to a payables data type. So that's what I was doing. Maybe that's where I missed it, but pretty much that's how I thought I could actually handle it.
I think there's probably a bit too much redundancy in your data structure. I mean, I think I get it, right? Like there's you're receiving orders from your customers and then you don't have the inventory yet, like you haven't received it from your suppliers yet. And then
Yes.
you're trying to reconcile from the order placed to actually receiving the items to actually getting like both paying for the items and then being paid for the items, right?
Yeah.
So I think probably taking a step back and looking at all of those, like you're in good shape because you have, like, you've designed these pages, and they look really good, by the way. But I think I want to study it a bit more and understand the relationships a bit more. Because you're going to need to tie in. So like, it's almost like it's two separate things, not almost, it is two separate things. Like the purchase order and order is one side of things, and the inventory and billing to the supplier is another side of things.
Yeah, three different things, actually.
Right. Yeah. Well, because then you also have to get paid, right? So there's the receivable as well. So,
Yeah, so
what was that?
So again, so the way the process is, it goes from purchase order to invoicing, and that's from purchases to sales. So the workflow is I issue a purchase order to a supplier, right? The supplier gets my purchase order. Say, give me X amount, X items at X amount, okay? The supplier delivers those items at the agreed amount. I get those items, keep the items in my warehouse. I issue a receipt technically to the supplier. Once I issue a receipt of the goods, I store those goods in my inventory. That means my inventory goes up pretty much. So once the inventory goes up, it means that I now have an obligation to make to the supplier. So I need to make a payment to the supplier. And usually the process is I issue a bill, right? So that bill, once I create that bill automatically says that I have a payable outstanding to the supplier.
Okay, but
So the
for
way
your
I-
inventory, so the bill is going to have multiple inventories attached to it because you're going to send them one payment to cover multiple things, right?
So what I did was not attaching the inventory to the bills, and maybe that's why I made a mistake. My assumption was that I would attach payables. So I would transfer items that I have stored in my inventory. I can now transfer those items to the payables. But I wasn't now doing it that I'm transferring the items from the inventory in the real sense. I was doing it that, based on the purchase order page, once I click, so I'm doing two things on the purchase order page. Receive these goods, store it in inventory, okay? Now, take the goods, also store it in payables, pretty much. So that's what I'm actually doing on one page. So in my order page, I'm taking data from the order page and say, you know what, once I receive it, store it in the inventory that you received, right? then also now store it in the payables that it becomes a payable. So pretty much that's the workflow that I was trying to achieve.
So what, is there a reason to have the payable and what's the, okay, so there's the purchase order and then we have the order. What's the difference between a purchase order and an order?
Okay, so the purchase order is the order is actually all the orders, right? So it's the list of all the items I actually want to buy. So if you go to
Right.
the orders.
So the purchase order has a list of, or the orders refer back to the purchase order,
Yes,
right?
the
So
order
these are
refers
like
back to
your
the order.
line items. But
Yes.
your line items have a quantity and have
Yes.
raw material, right?
Yeah, that's the
But
item.
then your payable is attached to an inventory and raw material and has a price and a quantity, and your inventory has raw material and quantity. So I think you have too many things in your database representing what's really the same thing, right?
Okay.
And so it's just making things a little more complicated than it needs to be in order to get the result that you're looking for. It also is going to make it possible that you could have disparate numbers, right? So like when you're doing your reporting, you're every time that you're referring to the same thing, but in different data types, you're increasing the chances that you're going to have like something's going to go wrong and you'll have different numbers being reported in different places. So I think the best thing to do here is you have like the raw material, and then you have, and we can call it something else if it makes more sense for you. Like I probably would call the order a line item, essentially.
Okay.
And then the line item will kind of have like different, you could probably do statuses on it, right? And you can stack statuses on it, right? So it can be a line item. So and if you want to change it, you can. If you don't, it's fine. But you can have a status here where it says, okay, it's been ordered. Then you can have one where it's been received, and like it's received and it's a receivable, right? Or it's received and unpaid. Like
Okay,
you
so
can
I can just do
a
that
bunch.
there.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can do it on the same data type, and that way you're just moving the same data type through your system, and you're not having to reconcile everything at the end.
Okay, I think I get what you're saying. So I'm using one data type, I'm giving it status. So do I need to use an option set for that?
Yeah, option sets are a great way to do that for sure, because you can come here and you can say like status, and then you can create your status, and you can create the like different statuses that you need in order to keep track of things. And then in your data type here in the order, you can have a status, and you could make it a list of the option sets, so you can store multiple statuses on the same thing.
Okay. I think, yeah, that might make sense. So I just have that. So I can, but how will I, so from my order, right? Because from the order, I'm making an order, let's say for 10 burgers. Okay. Now I'm making an order for 10 burgers. And it's in, okay, let's say it's in the list of items following your explanation. I put in the list of items, right? 10 burgers. Now, the first thing is once I receive it, I want to store it in the inventory before, I want to store it in the inventory. So I will now give it a status of inventory received, right? Is that what you're saying? So I can now store it on the inventory page. So I can show in my database that I actually have 20 burgers. Maybe if I already had 10 burgers as opening stock, I acquired 10 more burgers. So it will now show that I have 20 burgers. Would that work that way?
Yeah, this is going to, let me think.
Can you go to the preview page? Let me show you again, what I wanted to achieve respect to, I
Which
want to,
page?
no, just go to a preview page, preview any page so that you can take you to,
Who should I run as?
just go to preview. Okay, run as Adeboye.
Okay.
And go to data, use it,
Alright.
run as, yes. Okay.
So I'm on the index page. You can tell me which page to go
Yeah,
to.
so yeah, my index page, I ended up not using it. Maybe you can just take it to any page, maybe add bill, any
Add
page.
bill, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so when you go to add bill, go to products. Go to raw materials. Okay, let's say go to burger. So pretty much what I want to show, I want to be able to show that once I get the order, right? Once I get the purchase order and I issue a workflow that this order is received from the purchase of the page, right? Immediately, I want to be able to store the goods or the high quantity of goods that I received. I want to be able to store it to show, to keep a record that I actually have X amount of items.
Got it. So I would probably track that on the raw material itself and not make multiple raw materials, right? So like have one raw material that is coming from a specific supplier and has a quantity on it. And then every time you receive anything, you add that to the received. And then you also keep track anytime that you sell it, like you subtract it from a different field. And then the difference of those two fields will give you what you have left.
Okay, so for me to store the quantity in the raw materials, right? Will I take the quantity from the list of orders or list of items?
Well, you're missing a piece because you
Okay.
can take it from the list of line items or orders, right? And that will keep track of all of them that you received, right? Because you don't store it in the raw material until you actually receive it from the supplier, right? But then you also have to track when you're taking away from that supply and keep track of the amount that you've sold. And then it's the difference that's going to tell you what you have left.
Yes.
Yeah. So what you have is in your database here, you have this raw materials thing, right?
Yeah.
You only have one of each thing from each supplier. So like if you get burger from 10 different suppliers, then you would have 10 different raw materials for that.
Yeah.
Right. And if you wanted to keep track of all of the burgers across all 10 suppliers, then what you would do is you'd still have the 10 different burgers, but you would just sum up, like you'd have a type of raw material burger, and then all of those would have that type, and then you could calculate them all together. Right. And then, so then you have this burger thing, and you've got right now in your raw material, like so you have this initial stock of stuff, right? So this is a little bit different than what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you would have the supplier, you would have quantity received. That's an aggregate total of all time, how much you've received, and you'll have quantity sold probably. And that's going to be the number of like when you actually sell it to someone else. And then you'll have quantity disposed of, because burger doesn't last forever. So hopefully you sell it all, but if you don't, you might have to dispose of some, right? So you'd probably have quantity disposed. And then when you subtract the quantity sold and the quantity disposed from the quantity received, that's going to leave you with your inventory, like what's actually in your hands at your warehouse.
Okay. So just to be clear, what is going to be the field type, at least for the, let's say for the quantity for the raw materials? Am I going to link it to the list of items, the field type? Would that be it?
No, I probably wouldn't. What I mean, so you'll be able, you'll be able to survey your database to make sure that everything is adding up, right? Because you're going to keep track when you sell things, and you
Yeah.
probably need to keep track when you dispose of things as well.
Yes, that's the
Right.
ultimate.
So those numbers you should be able to tally those all up. But for your reporting purposes, you're going to want to be like maybe once a day, go and do those tallies and update each of your raw material, right? Or maybe like set it up so that every time you sell something or receive something that you go and you update the numbers here, right?
Yeah,
Survey the
it doesn't
database and update.
Yeah.
But I would actually make those of type number.
Okay.
And you can store on it, well, each of the things in the database that's related. So whether it's the line item or the receiving or whatever, you're referring to the raw material. I would not store that as a list, because hopefully you're super successful and you're selling a bunch of stuff. Your lists can only contain up to 10,000 things, not in the database, right? I mean, if you set units here and it was unit OS and it was set to be a list, you can only have 10,000 of these things. You can have as many of these things as you want in the database. That's not a problem. But on any given field, it can only store up to 10,000 references in that field. So I wouldn't try to keep track of that on this thing. I wouldn't say, okay, every time I have a new order that refers to this raw material, I'm going to store that reference there. I wouldn't do that. Every time you do that, you would reference the raw material on that one thing, right? So I don't know if that made sense. That probably was a lot. So
I do get a sense. At least what I get is that okay, I should store a record of the movement of the items, right?
like let me try this. I think this might help. Let's try out of place data structure. Okay. So the first thing that's going to happen, like when you actually launch your app, is you're going to order some stuff from suppliers, right?
Yes.
So you're going to have a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
And then the purchase order is going to need line items. Line items are going to be referencing specific raw materials, right?
Yeah.
And then the line items will also have other things, right? So here we have the purchase order. Will you ever be ordering more than 10, like, I don't know, more than 50 line items in one purchase order? Maybe. Okay. So we won't store a list of line items on the purchase order. What we'll do is each line item will refer to a purchase order.
Yeah, which is what we currently have.
Of type purchase order.
Yeah.
And then they'll also refer to a raw material of type raw material, which is what we have.
Yeah.
Right. And then the purchase order is not, we might or might not, you might choose to refer to a bill, like when you're, I'd almost call it an account payable, right? Like it's a payable. What you're calling bill, I might call a payable.
Yeah, you're right.
So the purchase order is going to refer to a payable, but more importantly, the payable is going to refer to a purchase order. Right?
Okay.
And the purchase order is what all of the line items going to refer to. And the line items is going to refer to the raw materials. So the payable is going to refer to the purchase order. And then when you're trying to tally everything up in the totals, you can store these things, right? Like you could also say, you could also say the purchase orders line items and store that of type line item, and then it's a list, right? Just as an easy way to access it. So the payable would refer to the purchase order and also to the line items of the purchase order here. And then you can keep your total total due, right? Or total to be paid, or just call it total amount, whatever makes sense. So your total will be of type number. So just so you know, when I do these for myself, this is how I lay out my own database.
Database, okay.
Other people like to do it in like a spreadsheet, like a Google Sheet.
Yeah.
Whatever works best for you. Workflow has been my go-to, but the nomenclature here, the naming conventions here is purchase order of type purchase order. I capitalize it if it's a custom data type. I don't capitalize it if it's a native bubble type.
Okay.
Right. I add if what I'm referring to is a list, I refer to it twice. I make the name of it plural, and then I say in parentheses that it's a list.
Okay.
Right. That's important because as you're creating, like if you ever started doing something like this to kind of lay out the data structure before putting it into Bubble, you're going to want to know that it's a list, because if you don't check list at the point you create that field, then you have to delete the field and create a different one.
Yeah.
So purchase order, line items, raw materials, payable. The raw materials is going to have a supplier. It's going to have a name. It's going to have an amount per unit, probably.
Yeah.
Amount per unit. The question is sometimes your suppliers are going to change the amount
Yes.
of something, and you don't want to, when that happens, you need to create a new raw material.
Okay.
Okay, so amount per unit, and then you're going to need a status, active, yes, no, because you will make it not active when they change the price or change something about it so that it's not the same thing anymore.
Now I'm not getting the active. What do you mean by that?
I mean, so when you, like right now, you have these burgers are available to purchase from the supplier, but they've changed the price. It used to be 30 cents per burger. Now it's going to be 40 cents per burger, right?
Okay.
But all of your references in your database reference this raw material at the old price. If you change the price, you're going to change all of your numbers because all of the references will be wrong, right?
Okay. It will change the previous pricing, as in the total amount, because you know the price, the value is gotten by price times quantity. So you're saying that if I go back and change the initial price, it's going to change back the
right.
Okay.
So I'd also recommend that you don't just reference the raw materials for everything. You also store the actual prices of things as numbers in your database when you're creating your purchase order and stuff like that. But I still would do this, where if they change something about it, maybe they change the name, maybe they change an ingredient.
Okay.
Right? If something changes about the raw material, I would make it not active. And then when you're creating your purchase orders, you only want to see those that are active.
Okay.
Right? And that way you're always using the last or the up-to-date one. You could also store date deactivated of type date, right? So that you know when it became deactivated. So amount per unit of type number, name of type text, supplier of type supplier, and then that means we have to have a supplier here.
Yep.
So name and then other information, right?
Yeah, those are basic, yeah.
Is this helpful? Kind of like laying it out this way?
Yeah, it is. I'm following.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that's what database structuring is, one of the more complex things to do for your app. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I would recommend taking even up to like a day just to think on things and play around with the structure, probably outside of Bubble.
Yeah, okay.
Just until you get a really solid handle on it, and then kind of go into the database and create it, like restructure the database,
Okay.
and then you can start building.
Okay.
And I've had apps where I had an app where we didn't get the database right from the start, and I didn't take over until the middle of the project. And we ended up having to rebuild the project because the database wasn't quite right. And there was a whole bunch of programming that wasn't right because of the database. And then we rebuilt it, but we took a long time just to make sure that we got a really solid structure, because the solid structuring isn't just important for your MVP, but it's also important for being able to, it will determine the limits of your growth in the future.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, that's my.
Okay, so just to clarify, the raw materials, you also said I once I get new quantity, right, I should put it in the raw materials instead. I shouldn't create a new inventory.
Yes. So I probably would call the raw materials. No, raw materials is right.
So
I would
again,
say this is.
Can I say something? Look, if I have like, if you check myself, I actually have finished goods and raw materials. So how am I going to manage that? So will I create?
Do you have, did you say finished goods?
Yeah, I haven't yet put it yet. So I'm just still working with raw materials now, because my products could either be raw materials. I could actually buy raw materials, just items, and I could actually get finished products, right? So how am I going to do that in my database? Will I create another replica of these raw materials and call it products and do the same thing all over again, or warehouse?
No, so like I would have finished, so I would have products, right?
Yeah.
Products, and products are, even if it's only one raw material and you didn't do anything of it, it's separate, right? So, and the products are what you're selling, not the raw materials.
Yes, please.
Right? Okay. So then the products that you have are going to have the raw material of type raw material. And then you might keep track of quantity of raw material.
Okay.
Of type number. So you know how many of these raw materials it took. A product is going to maybe require more than one type, right? So you might have to make a sort of line item for the product, in the sense of instead of just referring to one raw material here, you would say product, and then you'd have product name, and you'd keep track of, because you're going to have inventory of product, or you just make it on the fly.
Pardon?
So would you have inventory of a product as well? Like you have some of your stuff stored as raw materials and some of it stored as products?
Yeah, so again, I could get either finished goods from suppliers, or I can actually get raw materials from suppliers. So it could be either way. So that's what I was thinking. Well, should I just create the same thing for the products? It'll be the same.
Oh, wait. So I have a question. So are you receiving raw materials from suppliers and then combining them together to create products? Or you're just talking about, you have, like, sometimes you're getting raw material and sometimes you're getting a
finished goods? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I would just call it stuff. Like, raw materials is fine. If you're receiving it, in the form that you're selling it, then you don't need two separate data types,
Okay. Okay.
right?
So I can just call it products.
Yeah, so you
And
could
I
just,
can maybe give it a category. It could either be finished goods or products.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you were making something with the raw materials that then you were selling, then you would have to keep track of that separately.
Yeah. Okay. That works. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we are going to move into the after, don't go anywhere, anyone. We're moving into the after hours portion of office hours. If you would like to be part of after hours, you have to become a member of office hours to do that. And you do that by going to pronocoders.com. If you go and you sign up now, it's just $99 per month, and you get access to as many of the office hours as you would like for one low price. And you can come into the office hours section, you can stay for the after hours section and ask us your bubble questions and get them answered. We will be back here on Monday for episode number 177 of Office Hours at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I hope to see you then. Thanks everybody for watching.